Thank you guys for coming on the podcast. This is really cool for us because, we know a little bit about y'all's company. Obviously, we've worked with you in the past, which is really fun for us to kind of dig into sort of the story and the headspace of like how you got to where you are and what it all means. So it's interesting to have you here. So I think one of the first things to do is, Robert, let's introduce you and tell us who you are and what it is you do.
Well, I'm Robert Suber, originally from South Carolina. I've been involved in international business for about 38 years. Right out of the University of South Carolina, I took a job overseas. It was a tremendous educational experience, experiencing the different cultures, how people did business in other places, and of course the international business scene is completely different from doing anything domestically. So anyway, we have a export management firm here in Columbia. Moved back here in 2011. It's a great place to have a business, to grow a business. And we have an incredible team that works with us to my left.
That's awesome. Adeline, tell us about yourself.
I'm Adeline Badillo. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for MGS Suber and the Export Compliance Manager. I've been in industry for about a decade now, came with a sales background, and now have been doing regulatory compliance for the last decade. It's lots of countries that we work with, lots of good team that we work with. We have all the language skills in the office, and that's us.
How many languages do you speak? Robert, how many languages do you speak?
I speak 3.
3?
What's the third?
Portuguese.
Portuguese. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, Brazil's a big customer of ours.
I can see that.
I speak 3 fluently, and another 3 or 4. I have business level in those. What I found out is that when I was younger, I could speak French or Italian or Serbo-Croatian and just flip that switch in your head much faster. As you get older, it's harder to flip that switch and just immediately go in. So after a few days of being in Paris or wherever you get into the...
Kind of immersed
You get immersed, yeah. What we do is speak in English and Spanish almost all day long. One of the unique things about being bilingual or having 2 native languages or 3 is that it's kind of mentally exhausting. A lot of what I do will be presentations online, Teams meetings, Zoom meetings, and translating from a person here in the United States with the manufacturer to the people in the other countries. After that, wow. It's like somebody sucked your brain out.
One of the great things that we do is that we travel with our manufacturers to these countries, right? So, we speak Romance languages, and of course, I have a basic French and a basic Italian, and, we can read all the documents, no problem. It's more of the conversational side. But we go with our manufacturers and we do these presentations live, and we, in real time, translate, all these specifications, all the technical data or the technical definitions for the end users in real time. And it is exhausting, but it's part of why we're so good at what we do.
Yeah.
So do you guys regularly use like Babbel or some of the apps, the language apps, or those don't work at all? And how did you learn how to do multiple languages?
We grew up doing that.
Yes.
Grew up doing it.
Yeah. So I grew up in Puerto Rico. I'm originally from Puerto Rico, and English and Spanish are a given. You have to learn both. So because that's a given, you're obligated to learn a 3rd language. And so you have to, that's your foreign language, because English and Spanish don't count. So I grew up learning Italian. I grew up learning French, and then I taught myself Portuguese later on in my college years.
How does it? Sorry, I'm
Yeah,
on
that's
this
okay.
language
No,
thing, right?
I didn't expect to get onto a language conversation, but I like it. Yeah.
International business. I mean,
Right.
this is so important, right? So then there's the communication aspect, which you guys have down. Then do you have someone on your staff that's specifically dedicated to reading contracts in another language and being able to write contracts in another language, or how does that work?
We do, depending on where we work. For example, you're speaking of contracts. We have a gentleman in Colombia, South America, in our office there. He's a contract attorney. That's his specialty. The legal system in Latin America tends to be more of a Napoleonic law, based after the French law. And it's all very similar. Legislation is different in the different countries, but it's all very similar. But touching on the language aspect and what Adeline says is that we translates the word that you use every day. But actually what we do is we interpret, okay? Because you may translate word for word from English and they don't understand exactly what the
because it's not a direct connotation.
What the idea is, because
Yeah.
it just doesn't really make any sense. We interpret, we take the concept and make sure that they understand the concept, and that includes the technical terms and all of that. And this is one of the bases for our success in our industry. We fill that niche of the language skills, the cultural differences, because people don't understand these cultural differences. You can express yourself in English in a meeting in 20 different cultures, and you can be the most normal that you thought you could have been, not to offend anyone, and you just pissed off everybody. Okay, just by the delivery.
Right.
Because of the protocol. Because of
Cultural.
It's all cultural.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm just learning about there's a company called the Protocol School of Washington that's based in Colombia, and they teach international business protocol. That's like one of the things that they do. So if you're going to Dubai to do business, or you're going to Thailand, or you're going to Japan, they teach you the cultural ways of doing business when you go to a different country. I think it's so fascinating. We're going to their conference in a couple weeks to shoot some stuff, and I think it's going to be so interesting.
There's a book, right? Kiss and Shake Hands, that is just a quick cheat sheet for international people to know the differences in culture and just how to behave in a certain country, how to dress in a certain country, especially in business.
Yeah,
Nice.
I learned it the hard way. I didn't read the book.
Sometimes the best way to learn, right, is to
It'll stick with you longer.
hit your head
I
against
have
the wall a little
embarrassed
bit.
myself on several occasions.
That's how that goes.
Yeah.
So, Robert, you said where are you from here?
Originally, I was born in Union, South Carolina.
Okay.
Because my parents lived in Whitmire, South Carolina, and that was the closest hospital.
Nice.
So my mother's from Ecuador, South America. She met my father in 1956 when she came to Winthrop College here.
Okay.
My dad had gone to Wofford for a year, knew my mother's roommate, and they met. And so I grew up in a bicultural household, speaking Spanish and English. So I spoke what was, I call it street Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
You speak the words, you say the words, but you have no clue how they're written.
Right.
And then I started to take Spanish in high school, and it's like, oh, so that's the way that's written. And then it was honed in my 26 years living in Latin America.
Okay.
So.
Is that what brought you to doing international business rather than setting up a business in Colombia that does business in Colombia?
Truth is, I graduated from the University of South Carolina, and in 1985, I was offered a job in the mining industry. Coincidentally, it was in Ecuador, South America.
Oh, okay.
I interviewed for the job. I was hired, and I went to Ecuador to do startup. About a year into it, someone in the government in Ecuador that I had a relationship with said, "Hey, you're a gringo. Can you get bulletproof vests?" And I'm like, "Gee, I don't know. Let me see." It was a treasure hunt at that time. You know, today you have the internet, you Google and you search something, and you can pretty much find anything and anybody. There was a lot involved in finding things like that in 1986. I found a company in the United States in Florida that made body armor. I started selling body armor, and that was better than my day job. So I stayed in the mining industry for a couple of years in an advisory role, but then started selling products from U.S. companies. It went from body armor to firearms to ammunition to other defense products, and the business grew. And in 2006, I moved back to the United States to become more global. And then in 2011, moved to South Carolina to grow the business because it's a lot more expensive to build a business in Washington, D.C. than it is in Columbia,
Sure.
South Carolina. Plus the families here and everything else. And
And it's a good place to live,
Absolutely.
as opposed to other places in the country
Absolutely.
we could do business.
Yeah.
So I'm always fascinated with these stories because what led you to where you are now is not something that you planned on when you were like 18, right? You didn't say, "Here's my career path."
who'd have thought? Yeah.
And I think it's so fascinating that we ask 18-year-olds, going into college, "Hey, choose a major."
Yeah.
Go choose your career now,
Yeah.
because next to no one actually ends up doing the thing that they. What's your degree in?
Political science.
Nice.
Mhm.
Well, that's helpful.
The lobbying section
Yeah.
of what you got to do.
My degree's in computer science, so that's not helpful at all in what I'm doing. But it's what happens. Tell me what keeps you doing it. What keeps you doing it all these years later? Hopefully, maybe the money. Maybe not. I don't know.
Well, the money is obviously the ultimate reward. Okay, but Adeline, it's not. Adeline can probably offer some very interesting comments on this, but this is not a repetitive business. Okay, it's not a monotonous business. You have no idea what you're going to see tomorrow, and I never cease to be surprised.
I use that as a morale booster for everybody. It's like
Tomorrow's going to be different.
well, tomorrow's going to be different. At least we're not bored. There's never a dull moment, and that's it. You're welcome.
And if you need to let off some steam, just go over to the shooting range.
That's it. Yes, exactly.
Also, there's another interesting component. We build relationships over time. We have partners, colleagues that are our clients, or they'll work with us for some of them for 30 years, some of them more. You meet some really, really incredible people. We work with people. We have high maintenance clients like other people that are just, they're good clients. They pay well, but when the phone rings, you're like, it's going to be a long one. It's high maintenance.
Not
right?
naming any names. We don't want it to be juicy.
But then you have the other ones that are just a joy and a pleasure to work with. And then also there's our travel component. Adeline and I were, actually she stayed longer than I did. We were in Paris a couple of weeks ago. We certainly travel the world on business. We get to experience and see things that most people don't. She stayed for a training event, and the things that they got to do at this training event were incredible. But there's never a dull moment. It's never boring. It's not cyclical. It's not monotonous. It's neat. It's fun.
Adeline, what brought you to this? What I don't know that I've heard that story.
By complete accident, of course. So it's funny you mentioned, what do you ask an 18-year-old with what they want to do with their life? I wanted to, run the corporate ladder in, retailing and fashion merchandising, and that's what I went to school for. That's what I geared myself up to do, and, did my degree, ran a store. Brick and mortar has changed significantly in the last couple of years, and my store was closing down. So I was like, well, I've got the languages. I have been doing operations in corporate for a long time. At that point, it had been about 7 years. And I found an ad for this job about firearms. I'm like, I don't know anything about firearms. I mean, yeah, my grandfather was in the Air Force, and, I know about them, but that's it. But I went anyway. And I had a 2-hour interview, and my father was in the export and import business for 17 years, but for engines and transmissions and with Asia and, different side of the world. But it did feel like home to me, and I could use my languages, and I could use my knowledge of the international world, and it just grew from there. So lots of training. I immediately got my CWP. I immediately became a certified firearms specialist. I became a certified U.S. export compliance officer. I did my due diligence. I learned the industry inside and out, and it's the best decision I've made so far.
She said she had a 2-hour interview. She interviewed me for 2 hours.
I did. I did.
It was the first time that kind of the tide was turned. Also, a very interesting thing about Adeline, but is that she was working and her store was closing down, but I needed someone right now. Mm-hmm. She did ask one very important question. She said, "Well, so what do you want with me working here?" And my answer was, you know what? I want when somebody calls here on the phone for them to ask for you, not to ask for me.
Yes.
Okay. Well, guess what? Okay.
That's where we're at.
That's where we're at. It's great.
Well, I can tell you that working with y'all, I was always happy to get Adeline on the phone.
Yeah, there you go.
She would always give me an answer, direct answer. It was never like, let me check on whatever. It was always like, yep, we'll do this.
I'll always answer.
There's a
good
fly.
or bad.
It's okay.
There's a fly bothering Robert over there.
Oh,
It's all right. It's all right.
Followed us in from the other room.
Yeah.
I had job offerings in like California or San Diego, and that sounded really nice. But I wanted to do something that's fulfilling. Mm-hmm. And my husband grew up in Colombia as well. And so it's a good place to raise a family. It's a good place to be. And I get to do international business. So decided to stay.
What are some of the problems you guys might run into doing an international business from Colombia rather than from one of the larger cities on the coast?
Miami or, yeah.
Yeah. Transportation costs can play a factor. A lot of the time we want to receive the product in our warehouse to verify that everything's there, especially if it's a new company we're working with. We just want to do that or consolidate. We have other products that may go all in one shipment because we do have customers that come with we call it a grocery list, of things that they need that needs to be packaged a certain way, or maybe they want to come and do some training in our facilities. So transportation costs to a port can be more expensive, particularly to Miami because it's further, south. But that would be the biggest challenge when it comes to that.
I bet it balances out though, right? It's operational costs usually.
Operational costs
Absolutely.
are lower. Our international travel, people who live in big cities, tends to be a bit easier, and the travel time is shorter for them. But it all works out. With Charlotte, as close as it is, it's always better most of the time to drive to Charlotte.
Yeah.
And then take your first flight from Charlotte. You can go direct to wherever from Charlotte. The only thing that's still a bit difficult is that last leg from Charlotte to Columbia, that little 16-minute flight that gets canceled all the
We've had
time.
that issue.
And you have to jump in a cab or in a car and get to Charlotte, that kind of thing. But the benefits certainly outweigh the
Do you find that the customers, do they have any issues come into Columbia to see the facility or see their products or have the meetings with you, or that doesn't really matter?
No, they'll drive from anywhere. I mean, they'll be visiting New York City and they're like, I can get in a car and go visit you, and they will.
Okay.
So they make it work.
Yeah,
Well,
it's after COVID, it's amazing. We didn't get that many visits before COVID. During COVID, people said, well, we can't do this, we can't do that. Is it okay? Are you receiving guests? Sure, why not? And we get a steady flow. We'll have guests in the office tomorrow. We had guests in the office, I think, last week.
Yeah.
They come from all over, both domestic and foreign.
Right.
How has the new facility changed and evolved your business over the last year or two since you guys opened up in the new spot?
Yeah, okay.
And what's it like? Like, what's the gist of it?
Well, we have a lot more elbow room. We get to grow, and that was one of the biggest things, that we were struggling with where we were before, is that we had people in closets, because we're growing, we're doing so well. We want to hire more people. We just don't have anywhere to put them. So that allowed us to hire more people that we needed, and also do the trainings that we do. So, for example, we'll have, to give you a country from Chile, they want to come and do some sort of simunition training. Well, we have our foreign trade zone, so we can bring the simunition in and do the training at our facility. Also, we have Richland County, here, which allows us to, maybe do the classroom side in our facilities and then also work with Richland County for that. So that has exponentially amplified our sources or our provisions to our customers, because we have more to offer them when it comes to the trainings, the armorers courses, and also, they get to see the team, and we have more opportunities to bring in product into our warehouse and do the consolidation versus having somebody go to Miami and do it for them. So that's that.
The shooting range, the indoor range that we've installed, that we invested in the new facility, it sets us apart. It allows our customers and clients to come to our facility to test and evaluate products. Before there's several ranges in and around Columbia. They're outdoor ranges. The indoor ranges here are all commercial ranges, so you can't really get it all to yourself and be private, which is not a good thing. We need to be exclusive with our customers. So we would go to an outdoor range 20, 30 minutes away. It's either too hot, too cold, or rainy. You have to schedule, you have to take everything there. With the new facility, everything is right there. We have whatever they want. You go into our gun library, you pick what you want, and you take it and you shoot it. That's good on the client side for evaluating products that they might want to buy, and it's also very unique on the manufacturer side. Our manufacturing partners will say, hey, can we do a training class there? Can we do this there? You guys filmed one of those for us because we took advantage of a visit from a manufacturer and a visit from end users to put that together. So we're very different. We have manufacturers that would rather hold a training event at our facility than in their own facility because there's less red tape. Not less safety, but less red tape. You get foreign nationals into a manufacturing facility, they have to have an export license. You can't step over here, you can't look at this, everything has to be covered. So we've got both ends there, and Adeline touched on the foreign trade zone aspect. The new facilities really has another very unique quality, is the foreign trade zone. It allows us to do certain transactions, imports, exports in our industry that you couldn't normally do because of regulations and restrictions. For example, we can bring things into our facility that would be an enormous amount of red tape to get into the United States, but we can bring them into our facility, we can test them and evaluate them in the range, and then they're destroyed, they don't exist anymore, and we report that to customs. That means that manufacturers could come and use our facility for their tests, and of course, we charge for that.
Nice.
Well,
I was going to ask about the foreign trade zone, so I'm glad you covered that. So I think it's very interesting. I look at MGS as one of those, for lack of a better way of saying it, it's a best kept secret kind of place in Columbia. Like, it's really cool to know that we have this, right? Really cool that y'all are here. And until we started working with y'all, I had no idea that this was even something happening in Columbia, which I think is amazing. It seems like, what I would love to hear from y'all, and maybe either one of you can answer, for younger entrepreneurs or people that are just getting into business, looking at where you are now, where you're kind of like a part of the functional system. What would your advice be to somebody to say, here's how to follow the accidental steps that it takes to get to where you're at? There's just to recognize those things as they come up.
I'm going to start, and then you can close with because your view on this is a bit different. Mine's a little bit more jaded, but everything in this. People ask me, they say, well, where did you go to school to learn? How did you learn this? Just learned it. I've had some mentors in the business that are either retired or deceased now. They were very, very well-known people who were kind enough to share their knowledge with me and take me under their wing. And when I got into the business, I'd look at these guys who were in this international business, and I'd say, I was just like in my 20s, and I'd say, oh my God, man, look at these guys. Look what, wonder what it's like to be that. Well, guess what? I'm the old guy now. Mm-hmm. Okay. And it's nothing you can plan for. I make a joke all the time, all those dead bodies up on Mount Everest, they're all overachievers. Okay. Mm-hmm. So you just need to slow down. I've never done anything in the business. You take calculated risks, not silly or irresponsible risks. But there's if everything that I've ever done that was good or turned out well, there was a little bit of that fear factor or pucker factor, whatever you want to call it. But it all turned out well. I've been very fortunate. I didn't do it by myself. All right. I did it with a tremendous amount of support, both on the family side and on the colleague side. It's our business. I'll end with this. We're in the business we're in, and we've had the permanence or the time in business because of our reputation. Bad news travels real fast. You just said, I didn't know your company was here. Nobody talks about the good things very much, but if you do something bad, wow, it's like right away.
Quick. Yeah.
So fortunately, we've had a good run. It's been very good.
Yeah, I think that, and I agree with Robert. In a digital world where it's so easy to hide behind, computers and all that, as a young person leaving college wanting to get into international business, you have to get out there. You have to go to the trade shows. You have to go meet people, present yourself, and don't be afraid to start from the bottom. I mean, you have to learn everything. You have to learn the ins and outs of the industry, and it's a monster in itself. But it's great. It's a good one. And you have to learn the ins and outs from the freight side, from the processing side, from the licensing side, particularly in our industry and other international business that, of course, has its own regulatory compliance. But present yourself, make people know who you are, shake somebody's hand, give them your card, follow up with them, and make sure you're present, not just digitally, but in person.
Those are good. Those are good ones. I get people from the production marketing video side a lot at talking to me about things like that, and my response is always, I'm not sure I'm where you think I am. I don't know if that feeling is there, but I'm not sure I am where you think I am. Like, I feel like I've still got a lot to do, right? And so it is an interesting thing to kind of have a perspective on. What does the future look like? Where is this all headed for y'all? What do you see as the future for MGS?
My future is not as far out as Adeline's. I've got more runway behind me than I do in front of me. We're facing some challenges in the world right now with the conflicts in the different areas. Governments, our government is being a lot more restrictive on what can leave the United States, and it's presenting some problems. We have a lot of plans for the future. Unfortunately, we depend a lot on politics. Mm-hmm. Literally, with the stroke of a pen, things can go sideways in our business. So we're looking to see what happens in November. Obviously, there's one side of this that would be better for us in business than the other side. But what we do, we're a very boutique firm, and there are not a lot of people that do what we do. A lot of people come to us for compliance. The compliance is not only in the products that we have, but in software and electronics. It's all basically the same process and the same thing. So we're experts and consultants in the field of compliance and licensing. So we need to be flexible to be able to shift with the business climate. And we have the ability to go down different roads on this.
Yeah, absolutely. We pivot to where we need to. I mean, we're small enough to where we are flexible when it comes to the course of the business. So like Robert mentioned, on the political side, the international commercial side has been halted for us since October of last year because of the Biden admin's directive. So we pivot, right? We're a small minority business, and so we can also supply to the U.S. government on that side, which is what we've been doing. It could be on the international commercial side through the U.S. government, but we have the ability to shift focused and still provide quality and still provide the products that we've been known to provide for all these years.
Awesome. Well, that's cool. Brian has some rapid fire questions.
We have developed a questionnaire
to finish it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To wrap up our conversation.
Before we get to that, is there anything else you guys wanted to talk about? You want to ask us anything? I mean, you're on our podcast, but whatever. You can ask us stuff. I feel uncomfortable being in this position, not talking the whole time. So it's kind of cool to be able to just sit on it and not talk. So.
Well, here we go. Both of you. What is your favorite fictional character?
Her first.
Oh, my favorite fictional character. I'd say Monica Geller from Friends.
Oh, okay, that's a good one.
Oh, all right, cool. Robert?
I don't know.
What's the ringtone on your phone?
Oh, yeah. I'm big into Star Trek.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it wouldn't be just a character because I wouldn't. Probably the engineer, Scotty.
Scotty?
Oh.
Okay, the original
Okay.
Star Trek. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Of course.
Yeah. All right, that's fine.
I'm old. Yeah.
Now, I will tell you that I was born in 1973, so I saw Star Wars in theater in 1977 when I was 4 years old, and it flipped a switch in my head. I don't know what happened, but the fly.
Yeah.
I cannot watch Star Trek. I've tried.
Just can't.
I've tried. Even the Wrath of Khan. I've tried like all of the ones that are
Can't
supposed
do
to
it.
be great, and I just can't do it. It's like there's something in my head that says Star Wars, not Star Trek. I don't have any idea why, but
And I'm just the opposite. I've seen all the movies.
Yeah.
But I'm not a fan.
we have not had a good run as of late. If I'm being fair, since '99, there's not been very much good content coming out. But The Mandalorian's great, so you
Yes,
should
it
check
is,
that out.
yes.
Yeah,
All right, so what's your favorite season?
of the year.
It could be
Not a Friends.
I guess it could
Not your
be
favorite
Her
season of
favorite
Friends.
season is Puerto Rico or Miami. One of the two. Yeah.
Yes, I'm a big fan of the Caribbean season. In Colombia,
Anyway, like
my favorite season, I'll just stick to Colombia. It's
Yeah.
April.
Nice,
The
yeah.
weather's nice. And
so spring for our 1 month of spring.
for our 3 days of spring.
Yeah.
Before we go into death heat, but it's all great.
I'm probably a fall guy.
Fall.
Yeah. The fall guy.
Football.
Nice.
Yeah.
What's your favorite dessert?
Chocolate pudding or chocolate mousse.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bill was way off. He said you were going to have.
I said you're gonna have something exotic. Like
Exotic.
You found something in Brazil or Peru that you were like this pastry that some old lady made or something.
No, I just bought day before yesterday at the supermarket. Snack pack chocolate pudding. It's
Nice.
Okay. It's in the fridge in the office.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. I'm a big fan of the Little Debbie zebra cakes.
Yeah.
They're not a delicacy, but it's definitely. I'm with you there. So
Yeah. My second.
Adeline, what's your favorite dessert?
Tres leches. So
okay.
that is we do it in Puerto Rico, but they also do it in Mexico. And there are these Hispanic ladies at Lowe's Foods that make it really well here in Colombia.
Oh,
I'll have
interesting.
to check that out.
Yeah, yeah. Northeast Lowe's.
Okay.
Favorite song?
Me?
Yeah.
Fire and Rain, James Taylor.
Okay.
Good one.
Drops of Jupiter train.
Whoa.
Ooh,
Okay.
cool.
Nice.
What's the top of your bucket list right now?
I'll pass and you can come back to me.
Climb Mount Everest.
No, that's
Well,
ridiculous.
he just said the bodies thing is
He's not that
good.
much of an overachiever.
Yeah. You can't be good to climb Mount Everest. You got to be lucky. Right.
My bucket list, I'm actually about to go do. I'll be in Greece next month, and I've been wanting to go for a long time. So
It's
I'll get
amazing.
to check that off my bucket list.
Nice.
I think big fan of the ocean. I guess on the bucket list, I like 30, maybe 60 days on a boat with my family.
Oh,
We
That's
were
cool.
just in Greece as well, and that's what I would like, with no cell phone service. Yeah, no
Very cool.
satellite, no cell phone, and Adeline's in charge while I'm gone.
all right. I got two more,
Yeah.
but one of them's just for you guys because of the international. How many stamps or countries have you been to? Robert, how many
Have you?
passports have you actually gone through?
A lot,
Have
a
you
lot,
counted them?
and I have them all. I counted how many countries we do business in. We do business in about 62, 63 countries. I've probably been to as many.
Wow.
I'd have to look and count. There's there's a couple of countries I've never been to. I'm not a big Asia-phile. Have not done a lot of business in Asia. I've been to Japan, Hong Kong, Thailand, Singapore, Philippines, but yeah, no.
Yeah, Robert runs out of space on his passport at least once a year. So so that's about right.
that's not
I've done about half of those. So.
Awesome.
Good gracious.
Mm-hmm.
All right, last question. Puppies or babies? Which do you like better?
Oh, that's difficult.
That's easy for me. Puppies. Yeah.
I have to say babies.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that was the As Told by You podcast. Thank you guys for sharing your
thank you.
story
Thank you
with
for
us.
having
We
us.
really
Thank you very
appreciate you being with us.
Yeah, it's been
Uh,
been great getting to know y'all.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Thank you.
And cut. That's it. Thank you guys so much for your help. I will tell you, Adeline, we went to Greece in 2019, and some friends of mine just went 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. But she was posting on Facebook. She said, "What should I